Okay. Good morning, everybody. It is my pleasure to welcome you at the webinar focused on Hub4Everybody, a brand new solution for publishing, sharing, and managing of geographical data. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Markéta Kolerová, and I will be your host. As you may already know, the Hub4Everybody webinar is organized actually as a part of AgriHub Inspire Hackathon 2022, where I would like to encourage you to participate in. You may choose from 16 challenges that are currently open. Challenges number 9, 10, and 12 are closely tied to today's webinar. You can check the hackathon website, the link will be available in the chat, and decide which challenge suits you the best. We will be delighted if you could join us and become a member of international knowledge community, where you get a chance to experience new technologies and infrastructure and help us developing new solutions and innovations. There are two members of our team with me today. Both have been working on developing Hub4Everybody, so they will give you a more detailed insight on how Hub4Everybody can be used, who can actually use it, what are the main benefits, and many other information. These two gentlemen are Mr. František Zadražil and Mr. Jan Macura. František has been working in the field of geographical information systems for more than 15 years as a developer and analyst, and right now he's the main developer of HS Layers framework. Jan has also an extensive experience in geographical information systems. He is a cartography enthusiast, and among others, he is also participating on development of HS Layers library. We will be happy to hear from you and answer all the questions you may have, but please keep your microphones muted during the presentation. You can put your questions directly to the speaker after the presentation, or you can also drop them into the chat box. We also prepared a short Mentimeter poll just to get some feedback from you. So please take a quick look at the link shared in our chat. Thank you. Also, you don't need to worry about making notes during the webinar, since we will send the session's recording via email as soon as it becomes available. For those who have not registered themselves yet, please do so, and make sure you won't miss the recording from us. The link will be also posted in the chat. So before we start with the presentation, let's give floor to Mr. Karel Charvát, who is the main brain who stays behind of this collaborative work, with a few welcoming words for you. So Karel, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. I am very happy to see here many of my friends from last year, but also a number of new people who never worked with us, because I think that this is the reason of this event. As Markéta already mentioned, this hackathon is organized as part of Inspire Series Hackathon, which started in 2016 in Barcelona, and during this hackathon we are trying to promote solution which was developed in the previous project and guarantee some sustainability of previous result, because this we recognize as one from the big problem of European projects, that after end of the project many things disappear. So we are trying to organize this hackathon and these events to protect what was done and extend to the people, and on the top of existing solution to build the new things. As I am every time telling about Inspire Hackathon is not event, it is process, yes. We are now discussing if this is for 20 or 21 when we are organizing this, but the number is really huge now. In last years, we are organizing these hackathons only in virtual form. I believe that in some future we will be again able to meet personally more. But in any case, we plan to use and organize this event in some mixture form also in the future. Today, my colleague will present it, the solution which can help to the people easy publish their geographic data, but they will also in some way mention the future, what are our goals. I think that it was enough from my side, and I would like to give back floor to Markéta.
Okay, thank you. And I would again ask anyone else, and this is František, who would tell us more about Hub4Everybody. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is František Zadražil, and I'll start sharing my screen to see the presentation. And I hope you can see now.
Yes.
Okay, so what is really the subject of today's demonstration, and why are we making it really? The need actually came from inside of our organization, as many projects we have been cooperating on have produced many data sets over the time. And we simply needed a way to quickly and easily enough share the data and the results with our colleagues or even our partners in the projects. The usual mechanism of such task is that there is some GIS specialist that takes the raw data and publish it using some software in the form of service, or even worse scenario is that there is some shared folder in the network, and other users take the data from the folder, make their own copies, and make a mess in it. So we really needed some simple tool, so not only a few specialists are able to do the publishing, but anyone is able to do it actually. There are for sure expensive enterprise solutions for that, but that is always about the price, and often about very aggressive license policies. And if you are familiar with our organizations, you know that we always prefer solutions that are open and affordable. And we are going to show you such a solution today, hopefully. Over the years, we have been developing several so-called digital innovation hubs, often as a part of some projects, and this gave us the chance to work on the tools we need. So we have gathered the know-how and existing solitaire tools and have started to forge a complex and I would say powerful data management workflow, which is solely based on open source products that we have been either developing completely or we are contributing on development. And the solution is called Hub4Everybody. Hub4Everybody is a web portal complex solution for publishing geodata in the form of OGC services, like WMS, WFS services, or for creating composite maps and for sharing all of those data with others. What we are going to show you here is Hub4Everybody deployed on our infrastructure, which we call LessProject Cloud. In case you are interested in this technology, there is a link for a webinar here in the right. The webinar is explaining this infrastructure in detail, so feel free to check this webinar out. This portal, which is deployed on our infrastructure, is currently meant for personal use for everyone. Simple registration is required and all the tools are available too. But it's also fair to say that this specific portal is still developing rapidly, and new features and fixes are applied on a daily basis. But we can also offer organization the option to deploy this portal in separate instance dedicated solely to the organization, and the deployment can be either on our servers in LessProject Cloud dedicated for that organization, or even on the infrastructure of the customer. The solution is suitable for any kind of organization, from public institutions to schools, universities, to small to medium enterprises, etc. So I said that there is a geodata management workflow behind the portal. Let's briefly introduce this workflow and its components. We will present it one by one through the webinar, but let's now just overview what components are there and what is their purpose. Of course, all the web portals must be built on some content management system. And for many years, we have been relying on the Liferay CMS, but we have recently moved to some less complex, but much more user-friendly and easy to understand content management system called Vectail. I probably don't have to say that the main task of any CMS is to build the web content like pages, blogs, forums, or web forms. So for the user, Vectail represents here the entry point of the system. But there are much more and important components behind. For years, we have been developing web map framework for building interactive maps. That framework is called HS Layers, and Jan will show you this in more detail in a minute. It's not simply a map, but it also provides the functionality to publish and share your data or complete maps. And if we are saying that you can publish geodata, there must be something which will do the actual publishing, and that is Layman. Layman is basically a web service with a very nice REST API, which turns your geodata stored in physical files like GeoJSONs or shapefiles into the OGC standardized services like WMS and WFS. And of course, if you are dealing with geodata, you will probably want to store its metadata as well. And that is the task for Mitska metadata catalog. It's also important to say that all of those components have APIs and are communicating with each other through it. So it's not a single monolithic software, all of this, but it's more a collection of components integrated together. But each of it can work even as a separate instance. The two remaining components on the left you see are outside the portal actually, but they share the user identity. So if you are working with any of those components, you are still using your own identity stored in the CMS. And that applies also to QGIS, or more specifically to QGIS Layman plugin, which we are developing. I will again show you this plugin later in detail, but I'll just say for now that it does the same as the web map regarding publishing geodata, but this time on the desktop environment. And we have recently adopted a new component to the workflow, which is basically the mobile version of QGIS called QField. We are not using it directly, but we are building mobile apps based on it. So it's derivative apps based on QField. So let's dig a bit deeper and look at the Vectail. And I should probably say not just Vectail, but also CodeRed, which is built on top of Vectail and adds some most common features you would expect any CMS to have. But for simplicity, I will later say just Vectail. Vectail is Django-based headless CMS, and it really has extremely simple and fast setup. It takes a few minutes to get it ready. It is written in Python, so if you need to customize or extend it, it's very simple to do so. And we have actually done that, for example, for the HS Layers maps. But you can extend it by new page templates, permissions, anything, any content of the CMS actually. There is a large community behind Wagtail and Django. So many useful plugins can be found online and integrate into the current solution. Wagtail is not just some open source, but it's used by some of the biggest organizations around the world. And for many organizations, it's important for the system to be able to connect to their authentication systems. And Wagtail is ready for that. It supports all the most common mechanisms like OpenID, OAuth2, LDAP, Active Directory, and so on. It also provides role-based authorization for all the resources in the portal, so you can set up who will see what, and again, it can be freely extended to fit your needs. Okay, probably enough talking for now, and let's see something in action. So I will try to switch to if I'm able to do it right now. Switch to the portal, and if you haven't checked this portal before, you can see that it's just a common web portal. We have created some sample content here just to demonstrate the possibilities of the CMS. There is some navigation bar with sample pages. We have created, for example, a sample page describing land use, where the most interesting part is probably the map, where we are comparing land use and land cover. So you can check those pages out. Honza will describe this component later, and as I said, all of the maps you will see here are based on HS layers. There is also a page which is describing the components or technologies we are using. So that's basically what I said before. There is, of course, a map page with just a map and all the components it provides. There is some forum blogs, etc. And as I was talking about metadata catalog and layman publishing service, there are also links for that here. So you can actually get to the metadata catalog from here and browse through the data existing on the portal. And if you want to really dig deep into the technology of publishing, you can actually try the REST API of Layman here. It has a nice UI to test it. But if you are an administrator of the portal, you get this little icon with this bird with Wagtail here, from which you can get to the administration dashboard. Most of you have probably seen some content management system before, so nothing really surprising here. But let me just briefly introduce how it works. So you can see that we already have some pages here, images, documents. So if I open the pages, there is a list of existing, and we can try to create a new one. You can wonder why at child page, and that's because all of the pages in Wagtail are actually child pages of home page. So you'll create a new page here. And you can see that we are currently supporting three web page templates. Web page extended is actually extended because we have done the extending by some features of ours. So let's create a web page here. And of course, every web page must have some titles. So let's call it demo webinar, for example. You can choose some image for the cover. And now we have to specify the actual content of the page. You can see that we have several layout options for here. You can create grid content with cards. You can, if you prefer, you can enter raw HTML code. What I will use here is responsive grid row, because this layout looks actually very nice on any device, including mobile phones. And it's a grid row, so I can add columns to the row. You can add any number of columns. I will start with 2 columns here. It can be either automatically sized, or I will put it to be half of the size and enter some text. I will put there some lorem ipsum to have it something there. You can do some formatting here, but let's leave it like this for now. I will collapse this column and add a new one. And this time we can, for example, add an image there. Okay, so now I already have some content here, and there is actually a nice feature here when before publishing I can preview how the page will actually look like. So when I hit the button preview, I can see the page before publishing it, and I can see that it wasn't probably a good idea to put this image here. So I'll remove it. Update the preview. Now it looks much better. Okay, so this is still some static content, but we are talking about geodata and maps here. So let's try to add some map to the page, and it's really simple to do so, because as I said, we have extended Bactail with our components. So when I add another column, you can notice that there is actually this HSLayers map widget. So let's try to add it to the page. And before the map is visible, I have to specify a few parameters here. Actually, I have to specify only one parameter, and that is unique ID of the map, because you can insert multiple maps into one page. So we have to somehow make it unique for the system. So let's call it map1, for example. And we will talk about how to create a map or map compositions later. But I have already prepared one composition here. So for now, I will just enter URL of the composition, and I will describe later or explain later. And if I update the preview now, what happened? Automatic size. Now it should look better. And actually, I should have seen a map here. Yeah, it just took a while. So you can see that it's really simple to insert an interactive map into any web page, actually. And of course, it's based on HSLayers as all the maps, as I said. Let's briefly look at the other parameters. You can specify the default map center. So any location which will be zoomed to when you open the map. You can specify the default zoom level of the map. And this parameter is really useful when you are inserting a map into another content, because when you are scrolling to the page, you can see that suddenly I'm scrolling or zooming in the map. So it can be useful to zoom with the control key. Let's update it now. Seems I have some slow connection here. It takes a while to update. But you can already see that when I'm scrolling now through the page, I'm not zooming in the map, but in the page. And then there is something called advanced settings. And that is something we are actually working on still. It is working, but we are trying to make it nicer and more user-friendly for anyone to be able to use it. Because for now, those are just two large text areas where I can put some JSON definition or JSON formatted text with definitions. And what I can do here is to add more layers to the map, and I can define which map tools will be available. Again, Honza will will explain this later in more detail. He will talk about the map component, but I can try to add some content here, some layer. If you have ever worked with open layers, this might seem familiar to you because HS layers are actually based on open layers. So for now, I'm just adding a new tile WMS service. And I can also show how the tools definition looks. So you can actually turn on and off some of the components. You can turn on draw panel, or you can turn on and off legend, print panel, and so on. Let's try to again update the preview. You can see that I'm still in the preview. I haven't published the page yet. And you see that there is this new layer I have just added through the JSON definition. And I've probably not selected the best layer to demonstrate, because it's address points. I'll have to zoom really close to see anything. Ah, yeah, there are address points. So that's the simple way how you can create the content and how you can include interactive maps inside any of the pages. And as I said, we are trying to make this definition nicer and more user-friendly. So this, for example, will be shortly replaced by some list of checkboxes where you can simply check which tools do you want there. There is many more settings in Wagtail. There are snippets when you I'll publish the page. And you might have noticed that there is also a workflow for moderation of the content. So you don't have to publish it right away. You don't even have to have the permission to do so, but you can only submit the page or any other content for moderation to someone else. So I was talking about snippets when you can define, for example, navigation bars, footers. You can create reusable content, which is really useful. You can, for example, create some HTML component, which you then use through the portal again and again. Okay, that is probably enough about the CMS. And before I let Jan to show you HS layers in more detail, I want to explain one term we are using here and which you will hear more through the webinar. That is map compositions. What are map compositions? Map compositions are actually JSON formatted definitions of the map content. So if you want to create a map, or you need to somehow describe what is the content of the map, what is the projection of the map, define some metadata, etc. That is the map composition schema, which is really nothing more than a specification how this map descriptions should look like. The map composition schema was originally inspired by the OGC web map context and its successor OWS context. It is in JSON format, as I said, for easier implementation, and it describes the whole map once you need to store it somewhere or to share it. If you are interested in this topic, you can check the GitHub repository here. I put a link there in the presentation. And that's enough. And now I give my word to Honza and HS Layers.
Okay, thank you, František. So I will take the screen for me now. And I'm really pleased that I can show you some features of our map component today. So our map component of the Hub4Everybody portal is called HS Layers NG, or simply HS Layers. It is an application for web mapping framework, which is written in TypeScript. TypeScript itself is a superset of JavaScript, and we are building on large JavaScript libraries, very popular ones, like Angular and OpenLayers. Our whole solution is, of course, open sourced, and it is published under the MIT license, which is a very permissive one. It allows you to use our code in commercial applications and basically anywhere you like. You can use our HS Layers framework in different manners. You can use it in so-called simple projects, where you just change some configuration options, like adding layers or changing which tools you want to have in the map. Or if you demand it, you can use the HS Layers in a full-featured application, which is totally extendable. You can create your own tools, your own panels, your own components of the map, and really extend it in any manner you like. Or the HS Layers can be integrated in some other system, like you have already seen with Wagtail, but we provide several other integrations to other systems as well. Also, I would like to mention that we have an optional mode in 3 dimensions via a cesium library. HS Layers can be switched to a 3D mode, so you can use 3-dimensional data as well. So that would be some theoretical introduction, what the HS Layers are. And now I want to go into a live demonstration on the Hub4Everybody portal and show you what you can do in our map component in action. So here we are in Hub4Everybody. You can see, for example, here at the land use page where we describe the land use, that there is a map window and with already filled with some data. You can play around with it. And I will now go into this map option, which gives you a pure and full screen map where you can play around. So as you can see, or as you have already seen before, every map component is split into 2 main parts. The first part is the map itself, and the other part is the sidebar here. In the sidebar, you can find different tools which you can change the content of the map, or you can export data and so on. So To showcase some of the features that can be done with HS layers, I will start with adding some data. So here I go to add external data, and you again have multiple options how to do so. The very first option how to add data into the map is from a data catalog. A data catalog is a storage that is part of the Hub4Everybody solution, and it uses the tools that were already mentioned and described by František. It's based on Layman and Mitska. So what you see here is a list of geodata, a list of data sets that were already created by someone using the Hub4Everybody, and that person has published the data for general public. So I can find some layer here, some data that might be interesting. I will choose, for example, here, railways. I'll add it to the map. And again, there are several options how to add the layer into the map. It can be either through a WMS service or WFS service. I won't go into more detail now. Each of these options have its advantages and disadvantages. I will just use one of them. So here comes some data from the data catalog. Pretty interesting data set, I would say. Looks like some proposal of super speed railways in the Czech Republic. The abstract doesn't say much, but what I want to show you here that I'm now in the layer manager tool, and in the layer manager, you can change, for example, which layers are visible. So I can turn it on and off. I can even disable the base map. I can change the opacity of the layer. I can rename it so it's understandable for all our colleagues. So I'll call it a railway for now. I can create a copy of the layer if I like, or I can just remove it from the map. Important note here is that when I delete some layer in the layer manager, it's only removed from my view, from my map here. It's not deleted from the server. Okay, another option how to add data into the map is via URL. This is very useful, especially with some WMS or WFS services, which are not in our data catalog. So you can link here some external public services. You can also use some service from ArcGIS map server. We also support that, where you can link some vector data in a form of GeoJSON or KML, which are on the internet, and add it to the map directly. So as a showcase, I will at first try at some WMS service. I will copy the link somewhere and put it here just simply. It's an orthophoto of the Czech Republic. And I will add it to the map. And as you can see, the layer is here. If I disable the background OpenStreetMap, you can see the WMS layer on its own. I can also try the ArcGIS map server. I have some interesting layer here, which I have found online. It's coming from the region of Karlovy Vary. Okay, so I will disable the orthophoto for now. I can zoom into the new layer. And for example, I can make less visible the background. And you can see here, it's some urban planning documentation of the Karlovy Vary region. Pretty interesting layer. You can zoom in and explore it. So you can use the map component like this. You don't have to be registered anywhere, but it's very convenient to do so. So I encourage you to log into the Hub4Everybody. or if you already have an account, you can just sign in as I'm doing now. And I'm going back to the map. And this will give you some other options. So I go again, once again to the data sets here, and I will log into catalog. An account has been automatically created for me, so I can now also add data to the data catalog and publish it to the general public or to some specific users, which I can select. Okay, I will once again add some base layer here, so the map is not blank. As you can see, it also remembers the last services I have used, so it gets faster. Here are some other ArcGIS services I've been trying just recently. But for now, I want to add the urban planning documentation because it's small and it looks nice. And now I go into the datasets and will show you how to add a file from your local file system. You can add many different vector formats, or you can add a raster image also if you like. So I will start with a GeoJSON file, which I have prepared. And I have some GeoJSON on my file system. It's a layer of mineral springs in the Cordially region. So I'm staying here in the same geographical context. The title here, this is how the layer will be named. The name that will be visible to the general public. So I will make it a bit nicer. Springs in Cordially region. Okay. The name is then something like an ID of the layer. I can define here in which coordinate system the layer is. In my case, it's geographic coordinates of WGS84. It has this code. And now interesting part here. I choose to save the data to the database, means to the data catalog I've been talking about. So yes, I want to save it there. And I can set a different access for reading the data. When it's set to public, it means that anyone can see the data set. And I'm also setting a write access to the data. And for now, I will rather keep it private, so no one else can edit my data set. So anyone can see it, but only I can edit. Okay, let's try to add this layer to the map. And I will disable this, I guess, and maybe again, make this less visible. And there are multiple points in the map, which are mineral springs in the Cordially region. I can now click on the individual points, see some attributes of this data layer. I can even download individual features if I like. I can remove some features if I dislike them, change the attributes and so on. You can play around as you like. So now there are just simply some points. I can use a styler here in the layer manager and change how it looks like. First, I have to set some rule. So I will create an empty rule, and under the symbol rules, I will create a symbolizer. So I only have points now in the map, so I don't have to symbolize lines or fills. I will go into some marker symbol. Okay, I perhaps zoom in so it's better visible. And I can change the symbols. So what could I use? Perhaps a star. Okay, so I have a star in the map now, and I can change its color to something more descriptive, like some nice blue here. Okay, let's make this a little bit larger. Okay, perhaps some stroke around it. Okay, so I can style the layer as I like. Another option is to upload an SLD file directly, which is defining the styles. Or when you prepare some nice style here in HSLayers, you can download it, as I did just now, and then use it for another layer again, so you don't have to restyle it from the scratch. So that's for a GeoJSON file. I also want to show you that other coordinate system and other formats are also not a problem. So I will add a shapefile here. I have some shapefile prepared here. Is just boundaries of the region. So I will name it accordingly, boundaries of regions. Oh, it's not just boundaries, it's whole regions. It's a polygon layer actually. So I will call it regions of the Czech Republic. And this is in a local coordinate system format called as Geodata SK. It's no problem here, just you need to specify it so our server understands it. Again, I will make it public to see, private to edit, and I already have a SLD file created for it, so it's not just a blue bubble, but it has some nice styling prepared. Okay, and I'm uploading the data. It's a little bit larger data set, so it may take several seconds or a minute, and after it uploads, it will add the data to the map, and I can combine it into a so-called composition. When that composition is done from my side, I can also save it into the data catalog, as I did with the individual layers, and use it elsewhere, or I can provide a link to this composition to someone, or I can, for example, go to another computer and continue my work on that composition there, etc. So when the upload finishes, connection may be slow on my side as well. I will definitely show you how to publish the composition. But meanwhile, I want to also mention that there are many tools I have not discussed in detail today. You can try them out. For example, you can change the language of the map. I mean, the other interface. For now, we now have on the Hub4Everybody set English and Czech, but other languages are also available. We have already translations to Slovak and Latvian. And there are many interesting tools you can try out, like swiping of the layers, where you can change the position of the map and so on. So, okay, perhaps I won't be waiting until the upload finishes. Perhaps the layer is a bit larger than I expected. And I will publish the map as it is now. So I will go here, save content of map to composition. Another tool here. I'm saving the map into a layman. I'll put it some nice title like map of Mineral Springs. Okay, and actually the name can be the same, and abstract can be a little bit more lengthy. Let's put some more descriptive term here. Okay, it's in this region. And it looks like the upload has finished. So changed my panel here. Yeah, the upload of the layer has just finished. Sorry for this inconvenient switch. Yes, it's the boundaries of the regions. So the map is actually complete for me now. I will zoom in again here. And I will finish the publishing of the composition. I'm making it public for read, and I will even make it public for editing, so anyone can change the layers in this composition. And here in the advanced options, you can even set which layers you want to have in the composition. So I don't want that WMS service to be there. I don't want this background map to be there, only the thematic maps. Okay, I'm saving the composition now. And since now it should be saved in our data catalog and available for a general public. Yeah, it's done, and anyone can see it now. So for example, when I just reload the page, of course, the layers will disappear, but I can go into the compositions list and reload it and continue my work there. Okay, that's, I guess, enough for the live demonstration. I will show that the composition is here after I wait for the load. You can even filter for only yours compositions, but there are not many for now. So I believe I've named it Map of Mineral Springs. I will open it. I will just continue because I don't have another layer for now in the map, and it's now loading the data, and it will show in a short second here. Yeah, it's already popping up in the map. So this is a live demonstration of how the HS layers map looks like and how it can be used. And I will wrap up with some links that will direct you to further information. Of course, we have a website where you can find some documentation for developers, how to use it. We have some documentation on GitHub. Our wiki pages, very nice ones, I believe. There's a brief description of all the components or all the tools, of all the config parameters and so on. You can see the code actually on GitHub. We also provide a ready-to-use template, so it's easier to start. HS layers can be found, of course, on NPM as a package or used directly in your code from some CDN provider. So you can follow the links if you are interested. And I now give the floor back to František. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you, Honza. And I'll start sharing the screen again. And now you have seen how the map compositions are actually created in the map component. So I can explain a bit how I got the URL for the map composition when I was creating the page here. So if you remember, I have created this page before, and I've put a map component there with some URL of the composition. So where do I get this composition? As I said before, all the data you are creating, all the maps and layers you are publishing are metadated automatically in the Mitska metadata catalog. So if I go here and open the metadata catalog, you can actually see what data are stored in the whole portal. So I have previously created this webinar demo application or map, for example. And when I open the detail of the map composition, you can see that there are URLs of the composition. It actually links to the map composition schema I have described before. So if I open it, this is the JSON format which describes map compositions. And if I take this URL and insert it here into the map component or map widget, this will load this specific composition in our map. So when I open the page again here, this is the composition I have loaded from metadata here. But let's now go back to the presentation. So we have seen what can be done in web maps, and now let's look at the tools we provide in the forms of plugin for QGIS. QGIS layman plugin is, as I said, the desktop option for geodata management. It's available via the official QGIS plugin repositories. So if you are familiar with QGIS, you know how it is done, but I will show later. You can do the same as in HS layers, so you can work with single layers, or you can create whole maps or edit those maps, set permissions for all the data, etc. And of course, there is still layman behind all of this. So anytime you publish anything or create a map in the QGIS plugin, layman is doing the actual publishing behind it. And as I've also mentioned before, this desktop QGIS plugin is sharing authentication with the portal. So once you are logging in the QGIS layman plugin, you are using your user account from the Vectail, from CMS. So let's see it in action again. I'll open QGIS here. And if you haven't installed the plugin yet, as I said, there is this menu item plugins here, manage and install plugins. And once it's opened, you can search for layman here. If you select it, you then have the option to install it. I have already done that. So I can close this, and once you've installed the plugin, there is a new toolbar available in your QGIS. You can see that there are only two icons available now, and that's because I'm not logged in, I'm not authenticated yet. So I will try to log in. You can see that there are multiple portals I can authenticate to. We are demonstrating Hub4Everybody for now. So I will select this one and click login. You can see that we can also work without login, but of course you don't have all the options there. You cannot publish data, and you can see only publicly available data from the catalog. So I'll log in now, and because I've already been logged in the portal, I'm just notified that the authentication has finished successfully, and I can immediately return back to QGIS. If you do this for the first time, you have to authorize QGIS to use your identity from the portal. It's actually really the same mechanism as if you are using some web service which is connected to Google identity or Facebook. So you have to authorize this application or service to use your Google identity. That's the very same mechanism here. And now you can see that the rest of the icons are active now. And let's start with browsing through the existing data first. So as we said before, we are working even either with individual layers or with map compositions. When I want to load and browse through some individual layers, I will open this dialog and try to find some interesting layer. I'm sorry for the slowness of the responses, but from my experience, it's every time I'm streaming video through Zoom, it really slows down my connection and everything else. So you can see that there are some existing layers in the catalog. I can select some of it and load it in the form of WMS or WFS to the actual QGIS project.
Franza, there is some problem with sharing the screen, probably.
Really? Anyone else can confirm that there is a problem, or it's just Karel?
It's just Karel.
Okay.
I am also not able to see QGIS. I just see your browser in the shared screen.
Yeah, now I also see web browser.
Okay, so I'll try to share again. What about now?
No, it's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I don't know what you've actually seen, but I have opened the dialog which lists the existing individual layers in the data catalog. So I can select the layers here and then load it in the form of WMS or WFS into the actual QGIS project. You can see I have loaded this layer here. But I can load not just a single layer, but I can load some complete maps as well. So let's try to select, for example, this one and load composition. It should load all the map content of the composition to the QGIS project. Again, it takes a while for the connection issues, but let's hope it will show something in a minute. Okay, so you can now see that I haven't created this composition. Actually, it's from one of my colleagues, but that's a composition with 2 layers, as you can see. Okay, so that's browsing and viewing existing data, but we can also create some data ourselves. So I'll open some project I have created before. It's simply about national borders of Czech Republic and borders of counties, regions. I have some filtered towns here or municipalities with labels. And similar to the web map in HS layers, I can publish individual layers, or I can publish or save whole the map. So let's first try to publish individual layers here. I have, for example, municipalities. I can select one or multiple layers at a time. So let's select country and municipalities and simply export those layers. And you can see that I've already published municipalities before, so it asks me if I want to overwrite it. Click yes. The layer country was successfully exported. Now let's wait for the other one. And at this point, those layers are published. That's all. So you only have to add the data to QGIS project, then export the layers, and at this point they are published in data catalog, and you can browse them through the web maps anywhere in the portal. It takes a while again, but let's wait for a second, and now it's done. So that's really it. That's everything you need to do for publishing layers. Again, you can access those layers also from the metadata catalog and search for the URLs of the published services. You can take those URLs and use it in other GIS softwares and so on. The last thing I want to show here is how to create a map composition. There's this icon here, or this tool, which opens this dialog. And because I'm not currently working with any composition, you can see that the only thing I can do is to create a new one. So let's create a new one with some title and description. You can set the extent here, or you can get the extent from the actual data and create a composition. And now the layman is publishing the composition on behind. And once the dialog refreshes, the composition is successfully created. You can see that my current composition is demo Czech Republic now, and the composition is created. So at this point, you can already see it again in the web portal. You can load it, but this composition is still empty because I haven't added any layers to it. You can see that I have a list of existing layers in the QGIS project. So I can either select some of them or check all of them simply. You can select in which form you want to include the specific layer into the composition, whether it will be WMS or WFS. And based on whether it's a new layer or whether this layer already exists on the server or in the data catalog, you have the option to add it to the composition and override the existing data on the server, or you have the option just to edit and publish the layer. So you don't have to publish those layers separately. You just can create a new composition, and once you include those layers in the composition and save it, it publishes also those layers. So let's hope it won't take too long. And I'll mention here one last thing, that you can also set permissions here. It's again similar to HS layers component. The only, well, there is really no difference. Yeah. So let's wait a while it saves the map. You can see that the individual layers are saved and the composition was saved here. So now it should be ready to go. And I can show you that you can set the permissions. Actually, as a default, read and write permissions are set only to you as an owner of the composition. But you can add everyone to have the right, or you can select specific users to have the permission. So if I add everyone here and save, it should make the component visible to everyone now. And it asks me about the layers included in the composition because they are not probably public yet. So it can propagate the permissions even to the content layers. So let's wait whether it stores successfully. And that would be all from the live demonstration for now. Okay, so the connection takes too long. We don't have to wait for it. Just to check, you can see the presentation now, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So you could see that it's really the same process in whether you are working on desktop or in web environment. The tools are, of course, a bit different, but they do the same. And once you publish something either in HS layers or QGIS, you can see it in the other and vice versa. Okay, if you remember from the workflow I've shown in the first slide, there is one more component, and that's QField. As I've mentioned on the very beginning, QField has been adapted to our solution only recently. Most of you have probably never heard about QField, but it's basically a mobile QGIS. It's based on the very same libraries, but we have some really nice, it has some very nice user interface for mobiles. It is meant mainly for the in-field work, so the workflow is such that you prepare your project in the office, synchronize it to the mobile phones, and get outside to collect data or work with them. The synchronization process has been a bit old school up until recently, when you had to actually connect your phone to the computer and physically copy the project. But there is now a beta version of QField Cloud, which allows you to store your projects in the cloud, share it in your organization, and access it from anywhere. We are actually not working with QField as it is, but we are rather taking it as a foundation and building our own apps on it. There is, for example, an application for variable rate application of fertilizers, which is now in the phase of internal testing, and we are planning some more. So that is the current state of the solution of Hub4Everyone, but we are still thinking of how to make it better. The next steps will be to develop close integration with systems like Grafana dashboards, SenseLog service for collecting sensor data, or Jupyter notebooks for real-time coding inside the portal. And who knows what else. Maybe we get some ideas even from you, and we'll be glad to discuss anything that's on your mind. That is basically all we wanted to tell you today, but it's important to mention that Hub4Everyone is a part of some of the challenges in the ongoing AgriHub Inspire Hackathon. And QField and its cloud is connected to challenge number 10, and our goal is to be able to export our map compositions to QField Cloud and to make it easily accessible on mobile phones this way. So if you are interested, please check the challenge description and contact us for more information. And if I'm talking about the hackathon, the whole portal solution we have shown you today is a basis for other two challenges which deal with building social space for geodata in Africa. And the second challenge aims at educational institutions. Okay, so if you are interested in any of it, please join us and try to make Hub4Everybody better with us. And that's it from my part, and I give the word back to Markéta.
Okay, thank you, František and Jan, for your vivid presentation. And before we start with your questions, let's not forget our Mentimeter poll. So please open the link and give us some feedback. Thank you. And now it's time for questions. I'm sure you want to know more, so please do not hesitate. You may unmute yourself and speak, or you can, of course, put your questions also in the chat. So who will be the first one? Okay, looks like we have a very shy audience today. So maybe there are questions from our team. I know that someone wanted to know if we want to test the technology, how it will be organized, this testing. František.
Well, that's a good question, how it will be organized. Well, the easiest way would be to register to Hub4Everybody, to go through the webinar as it is now, and we invite everyone who wants to test it or try the technology to play a bit with the portal, to try to publish some data. And if you face any issues with the solution or with the features, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we will work with you to make it better and to fix the issues you are facing.
Okay.
I think that in any case, during the hackathon, yes, there will be organized some session with the people where it will be possible to explain and test the things. So the best way is if you will register yourself for hackathon, and Markéta will contact you and send you some suggestion for some potential meeting with our developers or with the people, because we are looking for different people. Not you saw that there are advanced tool for publishing of the data, but what is also very nice for us to be able to prepare nice web pages, yes, because to make a nice presentation of the data in the side of web pages and other is also something what could be attractive. So there could be put together some team of the people who can try to prepare some presentation, and we would like to test it all these functions. So we are looking for people who are able to deal with the data on desktop or on the web. We will be happy to have some cooperation also with the programmer, but also if anybody is good in the graphics and will be able to prepare using Vectile nice web pages, it will be also very good.
Okay, thank you. So that was actually the invitation to join us in Hackathon. So it seems that our time is up, but before we end up this session, there are two events I would like to invite you to. The first one is the next webinar, which is planned for Tuesday, the 26th of April, again at 10 a.m. This time you will learn about remote sensing in agriculture. We will give you a hands-on demonstration of creating application maps from satellite imagery. The invitation to the webinar will be distributed today in the afternoon. And the second one is mainly for Czech-speaking audience. There will be a seminar on practical use of satellite and remote sensing data. This seminar will be held in Klatovy. It's actually part of Mandolin project. So if you want to meet some of us personally, you are welcome to join us in Educational Center Uhlava in Klatovy, and it's planned for 28th of April. So now I would like to thank our presenters, František and Jan, for their contributions. Thanks to the whole team of Plan for All Wireless Info Less Project for your support, and also to all of you, our audience behind the monitors, for your time. And once again, I would like to encourage you to try the Hub4Everybody and participate in AgriHub Inspire Hackathon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Have a good time. Kantiza from Bujumbura. Have a good time.
Thank you.